When I started playing Stellar Blade, I thought I knew exactly what I was in for. I had seen plenty of screenshots and heard from the community. I thought this game was simply going to be sexy robot kills monsters. Now, to an extent, that is what the game is. However, I was pleasantly surprised at the depth Eve is given as a character. The most interesting part about Stellar Blade is the fact that Eve is vastly different from the things that are around her, but she never feels out of place. This did not make sense to me. In most media, when a character is out of place, it is so jarring to me, but I just didn't feel that jolt with Stellar Blade. The reason I did not feel this jolt is because of how Eve grows as a character throughout the game. So let's get into it. Alright, it is time for your spoiler warning. Now, in this video, I will be spoiling the entirety of Stellar Blade. So if you don't want to know what's going to go on in the story, that's totally cool. Click off this video, go play the game, and then come back, or whatever you want to do. The video will focus mostly on Eve's development, but in order to do that, I will be discussing the story, like I said, in its entirety. So with that being said, you have been warned, and proceed as you see fit. I've heard this game described as a quote-unquote gooner game, and if you don't know what that is, God bless you. You would be correct in that characterization. Eve is incredibly attractive, and the outfits in the game can be super revealing. However, that is as far as her sexualization goes. Sure, she may be built like a shonen anime woman, but she certainly does not act like one. Eve does not flirt with any of the characters in the game, and her mannerisms are very platonic. I found Eve to be more and more interesting the longer I played the game. Shift Up made a game with Eve as the centerpiece and then dropped her into a world that feels absolutely alien by comparison. The environments and people of Earth are really drab in comparison to Eve. The locations are either dilapidated cities, sprawling deserts, and then a beautiful area here and there, but they're very sparse. Eve looks completely out of place running through an area like 807, and that's because she is. The area is so gray and muted, then you have Eve running through in this vibrant outfit. It's almost like Eve is the only thing that's actually in color here, and everything else is just black and white. Also, none of the humans look anything like Eve. Most of them have some kind of helmet hiding their face, and the only other characters who even come close to her in pure appearance are the other androids or Adam. They all refer to her as Angel as well, which feels very fitting. You have Eve, a being that is literally created as the peak of human evolution manifested, walking around with regular everyday humans. It's no surprise that she stands out drastically, but the juxtaposition was the most fascinating part of Stellar Blade. The difference between Eve, the environment, and the humans is even more pronounced when dealing with the enemies of the game, the Naytibas. The Naytibas are these repulsive, slimy monsters. They're normally gray and brown. A few of them will have some splashes of color, but again, few and far between. Eve, on the other hand, is running around in bright colors and taking her sword to their necks, and I loved every minute of it. Eve would feel out of place walking through 807 if it was inhabited only by humans. However, she sticks out even more when encountering the Naytibas. Imagine if Barbie was walking through, I don't know, Hill House or something. The differences between Eve and the Naytibas go deeper than physical appearances though. During combat, it feels like Eve is gliding through the enemies with her extremely elegant fighting style. The Naytibas though will attack by wildly swinging their blunt weapons haphazardly, trying to crush Eve with every attack. They could not be more different in their styles. The contrast in their appearance is even further highlighted by the contrast in these fighting styles. Where the Naytibas have a sort of belligerence to their fighting, Eve attacks with purpose. I mean, come on, she dodges by doing a back handspring. I mean, it's insane. The combat of this game feels like a battle between heavy metal and classical music, and that juxtaposition, again, was very interesting. With Eve being so different to her surroundings, I found myself wondering, why does she not feel out of place in this game? She certainly should feel out of place, and it should be ruining my immersion in the game, but it wasn't ruining anything. Instead, it was enhancing my experience, but what I couldn't figure out for a long time was why. And then it dawned on me. It's because she is slowly becoming more and more like the humans around her throughout the game. I got the real sense that she was trying to figure out what's going on around her and learn how to go against her programming and make decisions for herself. Eve is a complete badass, and she is not here to be rescued. She is the one who is sent to Earth to help fight off these monsters, and all the humans are looking to her to save the day. I can totally see why at first glance you would think that this game is all about Eve's appearance. Hell, I even thought the same thing before playing it. When I finally did jump in though, I was pleasantly surprised at how nuanced Eve is as a character. The story sees her come to grips with what it means to be human, and she even develops a few human idiosyncrasies along the way, such as becoming obsessed with collecting different cans or even falling in love with fishing. I also got the sense that Eve grew to care about the humans of Zion. In the beginning of the game, she's curious as to why the humans behave the way they do, but there's a scientific nature to her curiosity. A majority of the NPCs that you engage with will act shocked that Eve is even taking the time to speak with them, as if doing so is just so far beneath her that they could not even imagine why Eve would want to speak to them. However, Eve is genuinely curious as to what is going on in their lives, and I found that to be really endearing. She definitely has bigger problems to worry about besides finding lost items for shop owners. You would never know it just based on the conversations though, because Eve comes across as genuinely curious and even develops some empathy to the problems the people of Zion are facing. I love when Eve is interacting with the NPCs because you can see that she is listening to their requests and she's asking engaging questions. Now, you can choose whether or not to actually help them, but I found myself seeking out these side quests because it felt like what Eve would actually do in the game, so it kind of pushed me to do more of the side content that I might not have otherwise done. There is this beautiful moment right before the finale of the game where Eve gets to speak to the main NPCs of Zion before going to the final battle. Each of them sees her off with words of encouragement, showcasing the effect that Eve has had on the people of Zion simply by taking the time to help them with their requests. Eve also begins to question her reasons for being sent to Earth throughout the game. The story of the game focuses on what it means to be human and if Eve can ever achieve that. Eve is not human, but it is clear that she's picking up human characteristics throughout the course of the game by interacting with the people of Zion. The changes are very subtle, and Eve doesn't give a Shakespearean monologue about how she's changing inside. However, when she is sitting in a camp, it always looks like she is pondering what is currently happening around her and what has occurred in the past that has led Earth to this point. It's clear that she's having a hard time rationalizing if she's doing the right thing based on her conversations with the characters around her. The big shift comes when Eve finds Taki again in Matrix 11. Taki is her captain who was attacked by an unidentified Naytiba at the start of the game. Eve believes she is killed, however, Eve finds her at the bottom of Matrix 11 and she has been turned into an Alpha Naytiba. This is when I noticed that Eve was starting to show more emotion. By experiencing the pain, she comes to understand how the humans of Zion are feeling and is able to empathize with them. Anya and Sue come to mind here. Sue is a guard for Zion and Anya is an android who he loves. However, Anya can only sing when Eve finds them. Sue, though, is concerned how long she will be able to keep singing with her body in such a state of disrepair. Eve agrees to help them even though Sue cannot pay her. Eve tells him that she does not need a reason to help someone. Now, I don't doubt that Eve wants to help here. This happens pretty early in the game, but I don't think she really understands why she has this call to help just yet. However, once she finds out what has happened to Taki, she is finally able to understand why she has this call to help. Her scientific curiosity turns into a neighborly desire to help the humans. Eve becomes a part of the community, and at the end, when they are all seeing her off, the citizens are not talking to some random android. They are talking to their friend. That is why Eve does not feel out of place in Zion, because she isn't out of place. She has developed relationships with the people of Zion. Eve truly stands out when compared to everything else in this game. Somehow, though, she never feels out of place. This mainly comes down to how nuanced she is as a character, more specifically, how she becomes more human throughout the game. It's clear that she believes she's out of place at the start of the game. She's basically just there to kill these Naytibas because that's the mission she's been given. However, during her time, Eve becomes more and more curious about her surroundings, such as asking about a map on a wall or why all these cans exist. Eve is trying to come to grips with the people and locations around her. Throughout the game, she learns more and more about the humans, and by the end, when all the NPCs are seeing her off, she's become a part of Zion. She may still stick out in appearance, but by developing relationships when she did not have to, she's learned what it means to be human. It's all about connecting to those around you. This was not the message that I was expecting to get from the game that was billed as Gunnar Dark Souls. Thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, I would of course appreciate it if you would drop the video a like. Also, if you're interested in joining our team, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're a small outfit right now, but we have lots of room for some aggressive expansion. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe to the channel. However, if you're not interested in that at all, I still appreciate the fact that you watched this video until the end. I hope you all have a beautiful time, and I will see you all in the next one.